When adding rational numbers, we use the same rules that we use for adding integers. If the numbers have the same sign, we add the numbers and keep the sign. If the numbers have different signs, we subtract the larger number minus the smaller number, and we keep the sign of the big guy. Remember, with decimals, when you're adding or subtracting them, you need to line the decimal up and bring the decimal straight down into your answer. With fractions, remember, you need a common denominator to be able to add or subtract fractions. And your answer should be in simplest form when dealing with fractions. To have your answer as an improper fraction is okay. It is acceptable. 3 examples. Number 1, we have -2 1/4 plus -3 1/4. When dealing with mixed numbers, I would encourage you to make the mixed numbers improper by using the C method and then operate. So -2 1/4, I would multiply 4 times 2 to get 8, plus 1 to get 9. So my numerator is 9. My denominator stays the same, 4. So -2 1/4 is -9/4. I just used the C method. And of course the number still stays negative. Plus, I have this negative number. Let's use the C method. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. That's my numerator. My denominator of 4 stays the same. So as you can see here, I am adding negative number and negative number. So they have the same sign, so I'm going to add them and keep the sign. So I know since they're both negative, my sum will be negative. Now I'm adding fractions, they have the same denominator, so I'm good there. I will keep the denominator stays the same as 4, and I simply add the numerators. 9 plus 13 is 22. Okay? So I have 22 over 4, -22 over 4. Now I have to check, is this simplest form? Well, they're both even numbers, right? The numerator and the denominator are both even numbers. So I know these are both divisible by 2. Let's divide the top and the bottom by 2. If I do that, I would get -11 over 2. This is an acceptable answer. This is an improper fraction in simplest form, -11 over 2. If you were to make this a mixed number, you would divide the top number by the bottom number, and you would get the mixed number of -5.5. Either of these answers are acceptable. Number 2, we have some decimals. 3 plus -7.5 plus 1.2. I would encourage you to add the positives here first. So 3 is a positive number, and 1.2 is a positive number. I know it's positive because of that plus sign. That plus sign tells me that 1.2 is positive. So I have 3 plus 1.2, and 3 plus 1.2 would be 4.2. Okay, I still need to add this negative, so 4.2 plus -7.5. All right, now at this point I should ask myself, do they have the same sign or different signs? Well, 4.2 is positive, 7.5 is negative, so they have different signs. I need to subtract and keep the big guy. By looking at this, which one is the big guy? Which one's furthest away from 0? This guy is, right? And his sign is negative, so my sum here is going to be negative. My answer will be negative something. But I know since they have different signs, I need to subtract. 7.5 minus 4.2. Do you see how I line the decimals up? The decimal comes straight down into my answer. 5 minus 2 is 3. 7 minus 4 is 3. So my sum is negative 3.3. Negative 3 3/10. Last example, number 3, I have -3/4 plus 1/5. Okay, I'm dealing with fractions here, so I know I need a common denominator so that I can add or subtract them. So what's a common denominator between 4 and 5? Well, we could say 20, right? 20 is a common denominator, or common multiple that 4 and 5 have in common. So how would you get from 4 to 20? 4 times what is 20? Well, 5, right? So multiply the numerator by that same number. 3 times 5 is 15. Now, of course, this is a negative number. It's -15/20. How do you get from 5 to 20? 5 times what is 20? 4, right? So multiply the numerator by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Now that you have common denominators, you can add or subtract here. Now, you're adding here. Let's keep the denominator the same. The denominator is 20. And these numbers have different signs, right? This number is negative 15 twentieths, and this number is positive because of that plus sign. So I know here that I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the big guy. He is the big guy, right? He's furthest away from 0. So I know that my answer will be negative, and then whatever 15 minus 4 is. 15 minus 4 is 11. Okay, is this simplest form? Yes, it is, right? So negative 11 twentieths.